you'll have to edit.
So we're here at D&D, and we're talking with Mark Kennison. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Hi, good.
The nice thing about this shop is what's different about it is not only does Mark have all the, as you can see, accoutrement from all the panel building, old world stuff, but what Mark has done is mastered the new technologies of CAD/CAM drawings, and so he can actually design whatever it is you really want and show you what it's going to look like from every angle before he actually builds it. Mark, I understand that you grew up in England when your dad was in the military, so you, in your formative years as a teenager, you got to start out seeing all this stuff firsthand.
That is correct.
How did that go?
Well, the first person I got to meet in coach building, a guy by the name of Chris Lawrence, and that's who I ended up in an apprenticeship with. The first time I met him, he had a V12 Lagonda wooden structure there, and he was building all brand new aluminum body panels for it. And my dad ended up buying an XK120, and XK140, and an Austin Healey 3000. So that's how we met him. I did an apprenticeship with Chris Lawrence for almost 5 years. The first few years I worked part-time on vacations and holidays, sweeping up the floors, making brackets and all the various components. And
that's the way you start in England.
You got to start, and it's not like you instantly become the the top craftsman.
Yeah, the new generation here, they want to start and they want to own the place in 2 years.
2 years, right? So, and then while I was there, we had some short wheelbase Berlinetta Ferraris and a 275 GTB Ferrari and some of the Daytona stuff.
Big stuff.
That's where I started learning some of the aluminum.
Well, I see some of the big old girls that I've seen in lots of shops in Europe. You want to show me just a little bit on one of these? I noticed he was doing some patch panels on the Bentley over here that you're doing for me.
Uh-huh.
Can we take a look at one of those?
At what?
Yeah, the little patch panels,
yeah,
and
sure.
Kind of how that works, just the shaping.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's one of the panels that Steve's been working on, which is a wheel arch here.
Right, that was
that particular piece right in here, and as you can kind of see, it's been
right.
hit and mangled and welded on, and so on and so forth. And a lot of times for us, with all the panel beating equipment that we have, it's much quicker to make a new one than it is to restore that section. With that said, though, there comes a certain point in restoration. Sometimes it is, at least from a cost point of view, easier to make a whole brand new body than it is to salvage the old. But the problem comes as we walk on around, how much of it is original. You've probably heard the term that Grandpa's axe has had 3 heads and 6 handles on it, but none of it was the original.
Right,
right. One of the things that we have to balance in restoration is trying to keep as much of the original as we can, yet try to restore the various components.
But basically you're just making shapes, correct?
In this particular case, yes. Sheet metal shaping basically comes into being able to take a flat sheet of metal, being able to shrink it, being able to stretch it, and being able to fold it or bend it, kind of like origami. And what kind of sequence and everything else that takes place is all part of the process. The other part is just having patterns that you can work with. As you were mentioning earlier, you have one side of the car that you kind of try to duplicate for the opposite side of the car.
Right.
You know the car is handmade.
Yeah, a lot of times they weren't that way to begin with.
That's right. They weren't very good even from the get-go.
So some of the big machines you've got.
Yeah, some of the large machines we have here. This is kind of the heart of our metal shaping. We have a Yoder power hammer. I apprenticed, as we said earlier, in England, and we used an English wheel for squeezing the metal.
Right.
We currently now shape metal with this Yoder power hammer, and it squeezes the metal with a rotary action, squeezing it right in here. And we have various dies depending on what operation we're trying to do, the stretching. We also have a set of shrinking dies, and that's some of these dies that are right in here. We also have an Eckhold craft former that we do our stretching and shrinking, which Steve was using that on the part right over here. And then the Pullmax right over here, right beside your Bob right here, is another key metal shaping tool that we use. Those are the main power tools that we use. Everything else is hand you know, hand hammers, dollies, all that type of thing to create the shape.
So I see you got some interesting projects like the motorcycle tanks, which always have got the different interesting shapes. I know you've done some really wild motorcycles in your earlier days, which I'm going to get some still pictures of later.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, this is actually one of Rodney's projects.
That's pretty cool.
That's one of the things that we have here. That some of the guys actually have some projects in here that you'll probably film. That's one of them.
What's this? This thing. This is interesting.
Well, that's another guy's project. That's a station buck, and that's one of the things that we do here is create profiles. This is what Pete Cowick has made. He's made these series of profiles and then has shaped the body panels for the project.
That's the way they were all built. I know in the old days when you'd watch them in Italy, they'd have these profiles, which I call like slices of bread.
Yeah, slices of bread.
And then it's just to lay the metal panels on because you got to have something to.
That's correct. Yeah. Right.
And then they have a structure underneath. A lot of times, like they call the birdcage Maserati, it's just nothing but a wire structure to support those shapes.
Right. Yeah. And then as we kind of walk into here, here's another project that we also have a station buck. This is the 1923 Indy Packard. And as you can see up on the wall, we actually build digitally, and that's what we were just kind of alluding to. And this station buck was actually made off of the CAD drawing in cutting up the slices of bread, as you say. And just as you saw in the previous car, we'll shape all the body panels to fit to this.
Wow.
One of the interesting things about this is we're having to use historical photos and kind of going back and forth with what we actually have. So
now, one of your more famous cars, that Steyr.
Yeah, 1920 or 1938.
That's a beautiful
Steyr.
car. Is that even here today?
220? No, it's actually at Indianapolis today being shown. So
wow.
And that truck we're not filming.
No.